Let's have some questions now.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Tayal. And this was indeed a fruitful talk. We are opening the floor to questions from the audience. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and raise your hands. I'll recognize you.
Good evening, sir. It was very delightful to hear.
Good evening.
So I would like to ask you, as you talked about the NAM movement that was initiative of India, but sir, it has been seen that India has a bias towards Russia. Even when Prime Minister Nehru was leading the country, he had this bias towards Russia. And when Prime Minister Indira Gandhi came to the power, she also signed 20 years peace treaty. So, and I would like to ask that as China's aggregation is taking up, China is becoming a world power. Does India will take a such step again to making a particular bias towards particularly one side, particularly to the West? What is your take on this, sir? Thank you.
Thank you, Ved. I think it's a very important question that you have asked. You see, from the very beginning, you have to look at the circumstances of that time. 1947, India became independent, then immediately the Kashmir and Pakistan attacked Kashmir, so that front was opened. Then 1950s, Nehruji tried his best to have good relations with China. That did not happen. So we had a situation of war with a lot of difficulty with Pakistan and China. In our own and for a variety of reasons, Pakistan joined the United States-led alliance of Southeast Asia Treaty Organization and Central Treaty Organization. And it started getting a lot of armaments, tanks, and etc. from United States. And United States started pressurizing us that we should hand over Kashmir to Pakistan. And you will recall that several times on Kashmir issue there was a veto exercised by Soviet Union. Britain and United States in the 50s wanted India to hand over Kashmir to Pakistan. Never forget this fact. And Soviet Union came to our assistance, and in UN Security Council by veto they helped us. Otherwise, Kashmir would not be with you today. So it was not a question of choice. Second, when India started on its industrial development, even for Bhakla Dam, Nehruji first went to the Americans that give us technical help to make this dam. But they said, no, we will not give you. So the Bhakla Dam has been built by Soviet engineers, Soviet designers. Never forget that. Then Nehru wanted big industry like heavy industries, steel mills, and Americans said that only do you allow American private companies to come and invest? And made you look at Latin America. American private companies have a free run in Latin America and they are so poor. They are called banana republics because the entire profit, all the resources of Latin American countries, African countries have been looted by these private American companies. So there was no choice for Nehru but to go to Russia, and we had Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited, all that Bhilai mill, etc. we had. So it is very important to look at that. You are students of history. Don't ever, so what I am saying, you don't take that also that I am saying gospel truth. You read, you see that what were the circumstances of that kind, what were the choices, and did the leadership really had a choice at that time. And in 62, Nehruji did go to United States for help. And again I will say 1967, when Lyndon Johnson was in power, there was a great shortage of wheat in India. Your parents will tell you 1960s, before the Green Revolution, then Lyndon Johnson pressurized Indira Gandhi that I will send you wheat. PL 480 was the Public Law 480. The wheat used to come on ships. But first you negotiate with Pakistan on Kashmir. And so America, again and again in history, American leaders have tried to force India to give Kashmir to Pakistan. But they have resisted. And today, of course, America is different. But people change, history changes, and your friends and enemies also change. And you have to see at any particular point in time who will serve your country's interests the best.
Thank you, Mihir. Are there more questions?
Yes.
Yes, Shantanu. We'll come back to you, Jayesh.
Good evening, sir. So you mentioned about the Belt and Road Initiative. So what is your take about the China-Pakistan economic corridor, which is part of it? And can we expect India to build a counter to it? Because in 2018 we saw that India tried to initiate the INSTC, which is International North-South Transport Corridor. But the countries, they were reluctant to join. So can we expect something similar in the future to happen and which might turn into a success?
Again, a very good question. China-Pakistan economic corridor is a reality. It goes through Indian territory in the occupied territory in Kashmir, which we have to take back. So we are against it. But the road is already there. It is being upgraded. And a lot of traffic would pass through that road. And in any case, it is being financed by China. Almost $50 billion of investment is being made by China into Pakistan. And Pakistan is practically becoming a colony of China. That is one part of the story. Second part, that international north-south transport corridor from, let's say, Bombay to Iran, Chabahar, then across Iran, then Turkmenistan, and further up. It is, in parts, it is there. But there are two things. One, you build a road, but what will travel on that road? You need some commerce, you need some goods. Now, it is a very bitter fact that India does not manufacture anything which other countries want. You go to your own market, everything is made in China. Your mobile which you are using is either Oppo made in China, or it is Galaxy made in Korea, or it's made in Japan. It is unfortunate. It makes me feel very unhappy, but that is the reality. So even if you make this road, what will be sold from India on these roads to go up to Europe? To me, that question is more important. Roads can be there, but what is traveling on those roads? And that's why our focus should be on Atmanirbhar Bharat, to make manufacturing more competitive in India, to make manufacturing more successful in India, so that people of our neighborhood, you go to Bhutan, everything is made in China. You go to Nepal, everything is made in China. So we have to first put our own house in order. Of course, this road will be there, but we should have some goods to sell on that road. That is also very important.
Thank you, sir. Jayesh?
Yeah. First of all, thank you, sir. That was indeed a pleasure to listen to you today. And sir, my question is basically, sir, like you mentioned about, sir, China and Pakistan both pressing us on our borders, both of our borders with them. Sir, but it's been said a lot of times in many foreign policy analysts that like that India's war is not in the mountains, it's in the sea. India's war is in the sea. So, sir, do you really believe, like, what's your take on this? That, sir, like, we are fighting in the mountains, we have diverted our resources to the land, and that is somewhere limiting our expansion in the sea, in the Indian Ocean, our capabilities in the Indian Ocean. So, do you believe our expansion as a naval power that you mentioned, great powers rule the waves. Does that limit our ability to like expand our navy while we are fighting in the mountains with these countries?
No, again, a very important question. So we have to fight in the mountains to hold on to our positions. But what you are mentioning, there was this great debate whether to have a mountain attack corps, a new corps to be made, or to have more naval ships. And most of the analysts in India are now coming to this view that if there is a real war in Himalayas, we have to open a front in the Indian Ocean. So we should have more attack capacity. And if you look at this year's defense budget, the Navy's budget perhaps is 30% more than last year. And in fact, some analysts are also saying, I was talking to some American experts, that India should not spend too much money on aircraft carriers, because as you go into future, aircraft carriers will be coming under attack. They will not be as unsinkable as the American ships are now. So, and it requires a hell of a lot of expenditure to have an aircraft carrier. And we really do not want to go and save Vietnam. We have to save our own territories and choke Malacca. How can we hurt China? By choking Malacca Straits. And for choking Malacca Straits, if you have Andaman Nicobar and a whole kind of, they are unsinkable aircraft carriers. So you have your long-range naval bombers, and from there you can choke Malacca Straits. So what you are saying has a lot of merit, and a lot of discussion is going on in that direction in the government of India.
Very pertinent discussion. Thank you, sir. Pratyaksh?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, sir, good evening. So first of all, we are very honored to have you with us. And sir, my question is that there's not much parity between India and China militarily when you compare the two. And so how can India integrate further with the West? Because there are warfare is changing. Now from the conventional type of warfare, we are emerging into technologies like AI or cyberspace. How can India integrate with the West and yet not alleviate our ties with Russia, so that Russia doesn't go all along with China?
You know, this is the most important, I think, foreign policy conundrum with Jaishankar is facing these days, how to maintain your ties with Russia and also deepen your ties with the United States, and particularly in the context of Ukraine, etc. But what you have said about relative strength or military strength of China and India is very pertinent. But the future warfare will not perhaps be a total warfare. You know, it's not that China will come and try to occupy Delhi. Those days are gone. Of Second World War, then Germany went and occupied Paris and all those countries. Now, you can have a disproportionate power projection, but still safeguard your sovereignty. And next war will certainly focus more on cyber war, crippling telecommunications, crippling banking systems, opening the gates of dams so that flooding takes place. That is what kind of war will happen, and I hope we have both defensive and offensive capacity in that kind of warfare. But we'll have to have physical deterrence also by way of conventional armed forces. But my own sense is that in a decade or so, most of the wars will be by drones. You will not have this situation that our squadron leader Abhinandan got captured by Pakistan. because the air bombing will be by missiles or by drones. And now there is even talk of robotic soldiers, where robots are armed and they carry guns and they can, so with artificial intelligence and 5G, entire new system of waging war will gradually come. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. We will take one last question from Harsh.
Thank you, Ashish. Good evening, sir. We are glad to have you here, and I'm again sorry for the thing that happened. Yeah, so my question from you is that we have asked the political questions, the strategic questions. My question is that this one, which deeply hits me too, is about the systems that are running the both nations, that is India and China. China is an autocracy and India is a democracy. And as I'm seeing the global narrative nowadays, the Atlantic, foreign policy, foreign magazine, anything, everywhere this talk is going about that which system will run the 21st century more efficiently. Will it be autocracy or will it be democracy? Which is more efficient, especially after the pandemic. And somewhere or the other, people are saying that the Chinese model is winning, both in the terms of economic autocracy or the systematic autocracy. So, sir, will China's biggest weapon be autocracy? That rapid system which clarifies everything, will that let it win and rule the 21st century, or is democracy still there, or are the days of democracy over?
Again, a very important question. If you look at China, more than 90% are Han race. They have already practically suppressed any kind of religious differences. Earlier there used to be Buddhists and Christians and others, Confucianists, etc. Again, you will see that only in two provinces they have non-Han people, Tibet and Xinjiang, and they are facing difficulties there. Much more than what India is facing in its. So India being and China, there is one language for almost 1,000 years. In the I think 8th century or something like that, the Chinese emperors of the time imposed one language all over that huge landmass. So the development of India has been different. India was never a one centralized country. And we have to, whatever we may say, but as students, history students, we must realize that India is a new nation. India as a nation emerged under the British. We may not say it publicly, but as students, you must understand that it was not from Delhi, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari was ruled by one leader. So India has a different history. We have very strong languages. We have very strong regional identities. A Marathi thinks that yes, I am Marathi and Indian. So, but not in China. In China, nobody will say that I am a Cantonese and Chinese. He is a Chinese. So, in India, no other system can function except democracy. Otherwise, there will be civil war all over the country, and India as an entity will disappear. You try to impose Hindi on Tamil Nadu will secede tomorrow. You have not seen that those days of 60s when Tamil Nadu was almost seceding. When I was there and there was so much of tamasha going on. So you can't compare one country to another. Now, between democratic system and autocratic system, the ultimate test is of governance. Which system can give you better governance? As citizens of a country, we all want good governance, efficient governance. If you go to an office, nobody should ask for bribes. People should do their work. Streets should be clean. And government should function for the welfare of the people. But if politicians just keep on fighting among themselves, be totally corrupt, and not work for the welfare of the people. Somebody is saying in Punjab, koi sand mafia hai, koi keh raha hai, wo Khalistani hai. What is happening? So nobody talks about national interest, and that is for the younger generation to see. Our generation has failed. We have now 50% of our MPs are criminal record. So our generation has totally failed in giving a clean political system. So God knows what will happen, but it has to be cleaned up. How will it be cleaned up? Who will clean it up? I have no answers. But if you look around yourself, the faith in democracy gets shaken. But the answer is to improve the system, look for clean, honest politicians who want to serve the people, not just themselves and their families. And ultimately, it's for the voters to decide whom they vote for. But the litmus test is who gives better government. It should not be that... anyway, let us not get into political discussion. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, would you be willing to answer one last question?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we have 2 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Shantanu?
Yes, sir. So why are the key US lawmakers batting for the CAATSA sanctions waiver in spite of the fact that we concluded the S-400 missile defense system deal with Russia?
No, the waiver has not yet been given, but because the law is clear that CAATSA can be attracted. So a waiver needs to be given. It has not come to the Congress, so the government of US is trying to avoid the issue. They want to keep it hanging, to keep pressurizing India. You know, they will say on Ukraine, vote for us in Security Council. We are members of Security Council. So this is all diplomatic games which people play. I think we will manage all that. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Any ethical answer? I'm sorry, Adarsh, you could talk to Sir in other ways, but due to paucity of time, we will have to stop. Thank you so much, dear audience, for your interesting conversations. And sir, we would again like to collectively apologize for what happened.
Not your fault, don't worry.
Thank you, and we wish to keep the conversation on in other ways as well. Thank you so much for coming, and our heartfelt thanks.
Thank you, all of you.